Are we live? We're live? We're live. What's going on, everybody? It's
Look at Bobby's
Wednesday.
hair.
It's Wednesday, so we're doing our live stream. Yeah, and the hair is gone. The hair is gone. I kind of just got over it. I was planning to do it on Friday. Friday is a very light work day for us, or at least for me. Friday. But I was just like, you know what? Let me get it. Let me just get this damn thing over with. Because the longer I think about it, the more I probably won't get done. So I was over it. So it's dead and gone.
Did you feel the draft? Did you feel a breeze?
Yeah, your head feels light, so you want to just go
I love it.
You feel like you're gonna give yourself a concussion by moving your head too quickly into something.
That's my favorite part.
Yeah, so it's gone. Now I always say I'm not going long again, and then I end up going long again. So I'm not saying that anymore. But
I just wish you would have trimmed it. We've had this conversation before. I just wish you would have trimmed it instead of just 100 to 0, 0 to 100, however you want to evaluate it.
Yeah, but it's I don't want to have to do that the rest of my life. So it's let me just go back to short hair, and then let me just do short hair for the rest of my life. It's a lot easier. It's a lot easier of a lifestyle.
People are not going to be happy though.
So it's split. Some people like it. Some people don't. And also, it's our audience is very heavy male.
Typically, I would say, yeah.
And I think guys are
Good point.
love the long hair, dude. Because it's
I think the ladies, come on.
No, there's
telling
definitely
me the ladies
there's
don't
definitely
like the long hair.
There's definitely a portion of it. I can attest to that. But I think it's I'm playing a lot more of the field right now.
Oh, okay.
Where I was it's it is what it is. So it's gone. It's gone. Now that's a haircut you can say you're washing. All right, so let's talk about the Giants though. And this isn't the talking haircut. This is talking Giants.
Sounds like a good show. Talking.
So what's going on? All the people. We got a lot of. We've got. I love it too. It's clearly wrong. We got horrified. I'm sorry, Bobby, but you should have kept the hair. Corporate Bobby. That might be the most. That might be the meanest comment. It's corporate Bobby. That's the meanest comment I got.
That is so true. You media scum.
I think I need the. I look like a thug when I get the if I get the goatee going.
Oh yeah.
So I might get the goatee going because then it's all right. That's thug Bob.
That was what was that? 2018 Bobby.
Yeah, that's thug Bob. Well, before we were on camera, I didn't shave all the time. Now that we're on camera, 4 or 5 times a week, I shave every other day. So
yeah.
So I might get going the good. But people make fun of the goatee. But you know what? I'm not going to live my life.
It was good.
According to people.
Down for it.
All right, so we'll see. All right, I want to talk about Evan Ingram though, because the next pod is a preview pod. We won't probably talk about it much, and he's being brought up in trade discussions. Which this isn't the first time that Evan Ingram's been brought up in trade discussions, and there've been an interest, but it is the first time they've been brought up in a year where his contract is expiring, and the team is at 2-5. And do you think that he's gone?
No.
So yeah, I was on no, but once the big blue check, I think it was Jeremy Fowler who tweeted about it today. And that was the head of his trade article, to get people to click was it. That makes me think that it will, and I've kind of been reflecting on the Evan Ingram, because it might be the end of Evan Ingram, and it's such a weird career, and I was just thinking about it today, and I put out a tweet that I was like, I can't believe they don't. I need to retweet this stream. I was like, I can't believe they don't use Evan Ingram on crossing routes. And the replies to that tweet were so annoying. And it's gosh, if those replies are annoying me, who wants Evan Ingram traded, who doesn't want Evan Ingram to be the starting tight end anymore, gosh, that's got he must need a fresh start right now, because they just don't use him to his skill set.
No. And what was the big Evan Ingram stat that I had from the first half of last year to the second half of last year? Do you remember?
It was had the lowest QB rating when targeted in the entire NFL.
No. That was EPA. But my big Evan Ingram, my big point of optimism for Evan Ingram last year, when you compare the second half to his first half of the season, is his yards before the catch. When you're looking at weeks 1 through 8, it was the lowest of his career. And then by the time you look at his total stretch of weeks 1 through 17, his yards before the catch were actually the most and the highest of his career. So that stretch between weeks 9 to 17, he was used insanely, an insane amount, deep down the field, and they were flanking him out wide a ton. And that's when he actually started to perform a little bit better. I think only maybe 1 or 2 interceptions were off of his hands towards the second half of last year, one of them being that Dallas
Only
game.
1 or 2.
Yeah, only 1 or 2 compared to the 4. That was the first half of the season. So that's how they were using him towards the second half of last year, more vertically, where yards before the catch, it was the largest of his career, but they just have not carried that over to this year, where frankly he's just not involved in the offense at all, and it is a shame. So,
yeah, it's just so fresh because and this isn't an argument that Evan Ingram's really good, because I don't think he's bad at a lot of things, but what he is good at is running fast. And they
running a straight line.
Yeah, they haven't used him that way. And go look at Evan Ingram's numbers under Pat Shurmur, and this is knifing some stats, but look at his numbers when Odell wasn't there. And, when under Pat Shurmur without Odell, and his numbers are amazing. You look at his 2019 before he got hurt, he was having an amazing season. He was putting up number 1 wide receiver numbers. And then you look at the last 4 games of 2018 when Odell missed. Let me put my phone on.
Yeah, why don't you turn that phone off there, Bobby?
Yeah. He was putting up. I love the way Pat Shurmur used him. It was not as much up the seam, but just on crossing routes. Crossing routes should be used in the NFL, and they just don't use them on that. They use them on outs. They use them on sticks and curls. That's basically all they use them at. And then you got the play action boot type stuff that they obviously did that a lot this last week, but they've done that. So it's just frustrating because it's not I want him gone. I don't think he's a good player. I just don't think he's a good player. But it's he could be doing a lot better than what he's doing. So he's going to get. I'm looking forward to his fresh start and for what the Giants will probably get back. Now we're talking like he's traded already. He's not, but I do think he will be. But if he's not, it's going to be kind of frustrating too. If they can only get a 6, I would like to keep him because the comp pick will probably be better. Because
let's be realistic here. There's no, besides Jabril Peppers, who's now on IR and he's out for the year. Who else is realistically being traded by the Giants, or that the Giants would be open to trading right now?
The only one that I could see them doing and making sense would be Dexter Lawrence, but I don't see it.
No,
I don't think it's happening.
First round pick, no. Especially a GM that's. I don't think ownership would want you to would approve that one, where it's this guy's a former first round pick and the GM's kind of going out the door. I don't know. And that's just me speculating, but Dexter Lawrence is the one that makes kind of sense, but even that's a stretch. So everyone else, Logan Ryan, maybe, but again, Jabril Peppers just went down. You want Nate Ebner back there?
Dexter's the one that could make it would make sense for 2 sides to do it, where it's he's not on an expiring deal. Essentially, he has 2.5 years if you count the option of control. And it's the Giants maybe looking to restart, and then, maybe they're looking to build teams different ways, but the Dave Gettleman's still here, so it's not going to happen.
No, not going to
happen. But if I was the GM, that would be the one where it's I think I could get some good value back out of this.
Yeah,
there's other ones that we would do that they're just not going to happen. So I really think Evan Ingram is the only real option at this point.
Yep, I agree.
Just the comments are just. Loved you in the stand music video, Bobby. That's wonderful, Glock Roach. Mr. Brown.
I think Glock Roach is the special teams coach at Bishop Sycamore or whatever that fake high school is.
I liked it. He changed his Twitter name. It was PFF Bin Laden. I like that. Now it's PFF something else.
No.
We should change our names to PFF or something. PFF Bobby.
Nah, I'm all right.
You'll get people to follow you PFF, and then you'll get then you'll get people that just hate you.
Yeah.
All right, so ask us some actual questions, guys, and then we'll we'll hit on it. This is supposed to be a live chat, but I just wanted to start off talking about wouldn't succeed in today's NFL? Yes, he would. He was succeeding in the NFL like a few years ago, and that was like at his end. Whitman was a really good tight end. But doing it that way is a lot harder than the ways that other tight ends succeed.
Yeah,
where it's like, but we're trying to use Jason. They've tried to use Evan Ingram like he's Jason Witten, and it's just it doesn't work at all.
Nope. Thought it maybe would, but lesson learned.
Did you see the new rule about firing coaches that you can interview with 2 weeks left in the season? You can interview coaches now.
No, did not see that. Did they just approve that? I mean, they had some sort of
like an hour ago.
Meetings. Oh, I did not see it. I was having an Italian dinner, so I was not on Twitter.
That's
nice. Big.
Yeah. I think the Giants. I don't know if it's the same for GMs. They didn't say anything specifically, so that it probably wouldn't make any difference for the Giants this year.
Well, GM is always a little bit more loose anyway, I think. Right?
I don't know. I don't think you can. I don't think you're allowed to interview guys that are working for other teams in season. Because we said that on a pod, and then I heard other people saying, like smart
wrong.
people like Duggan, Duggan was like, you can't interview them till after the season. So,
okay.
So there must be rules on that. How's Nick Gates doing? I don't know. I want to get him on an O-line report though to check in on him, but I don't want to be like, well, how is your broken leg, Nick Gates? It's like, it's broken. And like, all right.
Thanks for asking. All right. Thanks for coming on. O-line report. See you later.
Like I've tried to stay in a little bit of contact with him, because like I don't, but it's like, what do I say to him? Like, man, how about them Yankees?
How about them Cornhuskers? They stink.
Yeah. Let's see. What do you think Patrick Graham will draw for defense to face the Chiefs offense? What do you think our defensive plan will be? I think it's going to be very similar to what we saw last week with Sam Darnold.
But Dan Schneider put out some really good stuff today, by the way.
Well, it sounded a lot like what I said yesterday. It's like you can't use the same offensive game plan from last week this week.
No, but Patrick Mahomes, he was talking a lot about the defense too, where Patrick Mahomes is much better against zone coverage than he is against man coverage this year. So I think he might go back to playing a little bit more man.
I think it's going to be, but I think the basis of his game plan will be to like, all right, let's stop the big plays. It's like Patrick Mahomes is not patient enough to, the way the Giants have lost this year is by quarterbacks being very patient and completing over 70% of those passes. And that's how they beat the Seahawks last year. It's because Russell Wilson wasn't patient at all. Russell Wilson, was attacked. I remember talking about in the preview. It's like he was throwing like a 20+ yard pass, like 1 out of every 4 attempts, Yeah. Like it was an insane number. I remember you brought that up and I was blown away by that. It's like, that just doesn't even seem real life, and that's how they beat the Saints it was like the only game last year where they did the 2 high safety look. And now they're doing it not the majority of the time, but they're doing a lot of it this year. Darnold and Mahomes are completely different. Defense will look bad. Well, yep, that is very true that they're very different. And that's why I'm not buying in on the defense, because Darnold is bad. It was a good game plan versus Darnold, but Darnold is bad. So I'm not expecting the defense to play well versus the Kansas City Chiefs. They're still a really good offense.
No,
Patrick Mahomes has been held to like the best ever standard. And so like right now he's like having like he's in the 5 to 10 range for QBs this season. Not like I still take him over every QB in this league. But like this year, you look at the performance, he's in that 5 to 10 range, and he's had a good amount of turnovers. But like the idea that they're bad, it's like if the Giants offense could get to where they are at right now in the next 5 years, I would be through the roof.
Yeah, I mean they're still 5th in DVOA, which is they're 5th in efficiency, despite all, and that just lets you know, despite all the turnovers, they're still 5th in some efficiency metrics. Now the thing, I think those turnovers hurt more because of how bad their defense is. If their defense was so bad, then I think not everybody's criticizing Patrick Mahomes, and those turnovers that they've also had have been, some of them have been bad luck. Like it's Patrick Mahomes making those no-look throws that some of his targets aren't expecting, and then the balls are going off their hands, and they're finding the laps of certain defenders. So this is actually really interesting. I actually want to do more research on this as, tomorrow night we're recording our preview pod. Just as a football fan and as somebody, who likes numbers and who likes to look at really good football play and how teams succeed, there's a really interesting discussion happening right now on, is the Chiefs offense fine the way that they are right now, or will they be fine in the future? Because they are turning over the ball at too high of a rate, and even that's being debated. But no, the Chiefs are turning over the ball at a very high rate.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes leads the NFL in interceptions.
Yeah, and there are some people like, oh no, but that's fine, because they're still looking at the EPA and they're still looking at the DVOA and saying that's fine. No, it's not fine, especially when you have a defense as bad as the Chiefs. It's not fine because it's leading to losing games, even if your offense is putting up over 30 points a game, right? So how are the Chiefs operating? That's basically, it's the question that I'm kind of like looking into, and will they be fine, or are they fine? Because if their defense wasn't as bad as it is right now, then I think the Chiefs, they would have a much better record. They've also had a very tough schedule, and they've lost to the Chargers, they've lost to the Ravens, and they've lost to another really good team that I'm having.
The Chargers, the Ravens,
another really good team.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who it was now. Let me just look up their schedule instead of sitting here.
Yeah, you look up theirs.
I
was about to look up their schedule.
I literally was just thinking about this earlier today too.
Yeah. No, it's a very interesting discussion. I was listening to NFL Live, and Sam Munson and Ben Baldwin.
The Bills.
The Bills.
And the Titans. Like you can make an argument for all four of those teams being like the best team in the AFC.
Yeah, if those four teams are the final four teams in the AFC this year, you're kind of not surprised. So
yeah, but the thing that you can look at and be like, okay, well, but it's like every team is putting points up on them.
Yes.
Browns 29. They're playing some good teams, but like the Eagles put up 30 points on the Chiefs. Now the Chiefs scored 42 points in that game, but the Eagles, a bad offense, put up 30 points, which is why it's like that. I love the game plan that the Giants had. We're going too much into our freaking preview pod, but I love the game plan the Giants had versus the Panthers. But the Chiefs' defense is in the Panthers, so you shouldn't have that game plan. You should be looking to be aggressive and attack. There's a balance to it because you do have a really bad offensive line in front of you, so there is a balance to it. But like you need to be aggressive in this game. This game can't be like a protect the ball, dink and dunk down the field. So
yeah. All right. Well, I have some other points on Giants offense too. Let's save it though. Watch the preview pod. This is actually the preview pod that I'm looking forward to the most because I really want to intentionally put in the work of like what's going on with the Chiefs right now because it's a fun discussion.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch some of their all 22 in the morning. So
yeah.
All right, let's see. Let's see.
Oh yeah, could we got some questions about who do we think will practice and play. I don't think it's going to change, right? I mean, the only guy that maybe has a chance of playing is Tony, but
Shep will probably play.
Shep. That's big. That's really big.
If Tony practices in a limited role tomorrow, I'd see him playing, but I don't think Galladay or Saquon are even close.
No, Ian Rappaport put out that, or somebody blue checkmark NFL. Saquon will be back for the Raider game, so he'll be back for that home game right before the bye. Maybe. Well, I don't know. Maybe you play him and then he gets an additional week off, or you give him the additional week off.
We talked about not rushing Saquon back, but if he can play, if he can play not at 100% versus the Raiders, I would because you have the bye week.
Correct.
That's the only game I like. I wouldn't if he is at the same percentage this week, I wouldn't play him. But if he's at that same percentage the week after, I would play him because all right, well, he gets an extra week of rest in between, and that matters for a sprained ankle. Rest is really the only if you play on it, you can play through it, but it'll bother you. I mean, we've all had sprained ankles and wrists and stuff like that. So yeah. Did we learn what injury Ingram had today? Was it just precaution? Yeah, I don't think we did know the injury. Was it
an injury or was he just in the trainer's room?
Well, yeah, but he'd have to be on the injury report though if he was in the trainer's room, which I don't know. I'm
calf, knee, arms, knees, eyes, ears, mouth, and nose, head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
I'm going to go look at Duggan's Twitter right now and see if he put out the injury report. Yeah, no, I guess they no, yeah, they don't have anything. There wasn't an injury report, so I'm not totally conspiracy. I kind of might believe the theory that he wasn't in practice today because they're going to trade him. Only one person. Well, let's put two together. Only one person tweeted that he's, per source, he's with the trainers. It was Art Stapleton, which really could make me think the team being like, hey, like he's in the trainer's room kind of thing. You know, it's like trying to.
Yeah, Art was the first person to tweet that out. Art's typically not a person that gets scoops. No, if it was like a Tom Rock or if it was a Ralph, then maybe I would be with you with the conspiracy stuff, but I don't know. Is Art the type of, or like a Patty Traina? Art's not the type of person that I think gets fed information.
Well, they all get fed information, but only one person did, you know, and like I can see the other reporters getting that information or whatever and not putting it out because they know their tweets are going to get quote tweeted to death by saying that he's not out of practice, you know.
Well, I think no.
They all tweet. You say the reason they all tweet that out on purpose is like, all right, I want to get as many quote tweets as possible.
Yes,
saying,
yes.
He could be traded.
Yes.
Let's see. What's the best the Giants could get for Ingram?
The first injury report of the week comes out tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Antonio. Thank you. We should know that, but we don't.
No.
What's the best the Giants could get for Ingram? All right, this will be the last question we take on the Ingram stuff. I don't think it's crazy to think a third or a fourth, Justin, because at 31 other teams, they don't see Evan Ingram like we see Evan Ingram.
No,
they don't. Like I'm telling you, when you watch all 22 of a player, those or you're not like invested, those drops don't mean as much to you. They're gonna
put on
you just think every player has drops. You know, that's why we don't talk about. Does any Giants fan talk about John Ross dropping the ball? No, but he dropped the ball way worse than Evan Ingram did. But he hasn't done it for the Giants this year. So nobody talks about John Ross dropping the ball. We just talk about his speed. But it's like he's had huge drop issues in his career.
Those opposing fans are going to put on the 75-yard touchdown that he had in the 2019 Bucks game.
The same thing we would do if he was on another team. We traded for him.
Yes, we would get very, very. If I was an unbiased Bills fan, right? Yeah, no, Zach Ertz went to the Cardinals, so I think the Bills may need a little bit of tight end help. If I was an unbiased Bills fan, I would be very excited if Evan Ingram was added to my team. And
honestly, you should, because they'll use him a lot better than we did, you know?
Yeah.
So now I'm not expecting I think it would be a fourth. I think it'd be a fourth. And I think anything else, the Giants would be like, we'll take our chances with the comp pick. You know?
Yeah, I would say fourth. Not third, fourth.
No, yeah, I don't expect a third, but if I wouldn't be blown away at a third round pick.
Yeah.
But I don't expect it. Let's see. What are the chances of Ellerson Smith and Aaron Robinson return on Monday? Do you think PG? No, I wouldn't really. Aaron Robinson, I would expect him to try and get involved this season. I don't have any expectations for. Ellerson was always going to be a project, anyways. I have no expectations for Ellerson Smith this season. But Aaron Robinson, I can see not this week. It's not going to happen this week. Joe Judge essentially said, like, hey, it's going to take some time bringing these guys back. You know, I would target the bye after the bye week to see both of those guys, or at least one of them.
Yeah, we already have 4 edge rushers who they would rather use before Ellerson Smith, and I would still rather use before Ellerson Smith too. And they use 3 defensive lineman formations a decent amount too. So unless somebody gets hurt, then maybe we see him a little bit, but he's a developmental pick. Whereas Aaron Robinson, I would like to see Aaron Robinson a little bit and maybe operate him a little bit like Xavier McKinney last year, where next year will work as his pseudo rookie year, but he's still got some in-game reps this year. So he has some time to look back on it. And he got the butterflies out of his stomach. So at least it's not like his first start. So I think it's going to kind of be a similar situation as to that.
Does Danny Shelton get snaps taken away now? I'm not so sure that they will, Justin, which is frustrating about this coaching staff is they are very slow to demote guys. But they didn't really. David Moe didn't really play this week. He played
No.
like one snap here or there, and he played a little bit at the end. I think he only had 7 total snaps, and there was like 4 of them were in the last drive of the game. And I don't think they want to use Leonard Williams, Austin Johnson, and Dexter Lawrence all like 70+% reps. Leonard will stay probably around 80, but I do think when Shelton gets back healthy, he's going to play, which is frustrating.
Honestly, I'm at a point where, let's see, what was Dexter? Dexter was 70%. The couple of games before that, he was 62%, 58%, 79%. So he's been around the 65 to 70% range. And what has he been averaging this year? 67%. All right, so that's fair, and that's totally fine for Dexter. That's where he should be. Use Azeez more. Use two edge rushers more, and just alternate Austin Johnson in and out. Even on passing downs. Like, sure, I don't mind it at the end of the day. If need be, as long as you have Leonard or Dexter out there that maybe can eat up some double teams. But just use two edges more. Quincy Roche showed you a little bit. Lorenzo Carter is going to be like that constant. Azeez can be that constant whenever either one of those guys needs to come out. And then O'Shane goes out there only in passing situations. However, he's nothing, and I'm done with him. But use two edge rushers more. Bump up Azeez snap. And I think that's what we saw this weekend. They used two edge rushers more, and Azeez Ojulari's snap share and his snap count went up.
Yeah. Play Azeez more. NYG Jeffrey, would you move Skura to center, put Bradson left guard, and bench Price? I would. Like, I'm kind of out on Billy Price. Now, I don't know if Bredesen would be better than Price, but I think Skura at center would kind of do some good for the team. Like, he understands where hand placement and hat placement. So he'd be working with both guards in the run game, and he understands double team. So I think it would, because I think it would benefit both guards, and the guards need to be benefited more than left tackle right now from Matt Skura. So I think I would, and Bredesen, like, I have more hope that Bredesen can turn into an average offensive lineman, where Billy Price is just he is what he is. He's a backup offensive lineman. So yeah, I think I would, man. I think I would. Bredesen is someone who can get better, the way like Shane Lemieux could get better. So yeah, I actually would do that. I think Matt Skura is just a very smart player. I think he would be good. I think he would be good for that center position. So yes, I would put Matt Skura at center. I kind of like Matt Skura. I think he'll be a good backup to have. Like, he's a good backup offensive lineman, or fifth best offensive lineman.
It's so crazy how we're once again saying that if the Giants draft an offensive lineman in round 1, that we're okay with it, right?
2 offensive linemen in round 1 would be cool too.
And the line would still need more work after that, because we're seeing this year just how bad the depth was. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, and keeping Skura would be big for this too. And I really hate saying this and putting this out there. We don't know what Nick Gates is going to be when he gets back.
I know.
Or if he's even back next year. Like, we don't know. That's a bad injury, man. It was the best case scenario in a bad situation.
How many surgeries did he need? Like, we were still looking a week later, and it's like Nick Gates needs another surgery. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah,
we don't. So Matt Skura would be great insurance to have as like, all right, if Nick Gates isn't ready, he can be this. We can put him at center.
Yeah.
And like, we liked what we saw out of very limited reps out of Shane Lemieux, but it's like we can't go into the next season and be like, all right, Shane Lemieux's the guy. You give him the opportunity to be the guy, but we can't be sure.
Yeah, they can't do the same. I mean, no. I mean,
they have to add a right tackle, whether it's one of those first round picks has to be an offensive lineman. And there's a lot of good offensive linemen, tackles, and guards in this year's draft. You have 2 picks. I'm fine taking 2 offensive linemen, but let's say they don't do that. So you add that person. You have Andrew Thomas. Let's say you got Nick Gates, Matt Skura at that center spot, unless you would draft like that center from Iowa, who everyone loves. I haven't watched them, and I think you would kind of have like, all right, you have one real deal guard, and then you let a vet and Shane Lemieux battle. I don't know. I'm not doing all this right now.
No, but they can't do what they did last year, which is just, all right, let's put all the eggs in the basket of the young guys, which in a way, with a line of paired at right tackle and Hernandez and Gates and Lemieux and Thomas, I think that would have been an okay line, especially with, again, if Andrew Thomas is clamping down on that left side, it just makes everybody else look kind of better, unless you're a psychopath like Bobby Skinner who looks into every single player every single week. So it would have made the unit a lot better. But it's just the depth. I mean, the depth was so many last-minute trades right before week one trades and signings and acquisitions that were made, and that can't happen. Like, you need to invest, late-round draft picks, mid-tier draft picks into offensive linemen, not even for the purpose of them starting, but simply that they can be maybe solid depth pieces that will be used because injuries happen, that will be used, and they could be here for the next 4 years. So,
yeah, I mean, you got to have, there's 4 question marks, so it's like you got to have you have to either bring in like first round rookies or second round rookies who are like, these guys will start right away, or like real depth. And I'm not talking about Zach Fulton, who's like a clear backup to Shane Lemieux depth, like real depth. All right. And Isaiah Wilson, I have no clue what's happening. All right, let's welcome on.
Yo.
Mike Too Nice. What's going on, Mike?
Up, guys?
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, actually. Do you hear me okay? Is the audio all good?
Yeah, we got you off of a win, so
awesome.
We're going to talk about some good things.
For once.
I mean, content is so much more fun when you win, so that is selfishly why you won. Let me Mike, I was looking at some of your videos, man. It's like, I watched most of the Giants and Nets ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, like your pin video of Fitzpatrick, it's like, geez, that has 200,000 views. So, Mike, how long have you been doing YouTube? Because obviously I've known that you've been doing it since I started doing this like 2 years ago.
I really dove into it like late 2017, probably. So that's almost 4 years now. It's been a while, so it feels like forever.
So, like, were you doing YouTube with Jerry Reese and Ben McAdoo as like the head of the ship?
Actually, no. The first Giants commentary I ever made was perfect for a Twitter GM like myself. It was called "What the Giants Should Do in the 2018 Offseason," and it got like 4,000 views. So I'm like, I guess people actually want to watch this stuff. And then after that, I was kind of like, you know what? I watched every snap of the Giants. I feel like I have decent opinions. Like, why not put stuff out there? And luckily it stuck. So, but yeah, I mean, that was the first offseason I started doing commentaries was Gettleman's first offseason. And I was fair to the guy at first. I liked the JPP trade. I was like, hey, we're going to start the rebuild. I like what we're doing here. The Ogletree trade, I was like, okay, a bit more confusing, but Ogletree was fine for the Rams. So that was okay. And then Barkley came around, and that's where the narratives happen with me and all that. So anyway, try to give the guy a fair shake at first. And, obviously it didn't go the way I wanted it to, but, here we are 4 years later. And I guess we're looking to make the playoffs somehow this year. It's still possible. I'm still holding out some type of hope because I don't know about you guys. I made I'm sure we all do this, made like a scheduled prediction of like wins and losses for every game. And it's kind of going the way I expected it to, except I had the Falcons and the Saints game mixed up, and I still had us at 8 wins. So like anything's possible. And it seems like right now that third wildcard spot in the NFC is up for grabs. So I'm still going into this open-minded. I'd pretty surprised if they won on Monday, but at least now we go into week number 8 here with like, hey, there's a chance of something could happen here. And it depends if the weapons come back healthy, of course. That's the main thing. So we'll see what happens with that.
I'm waiting for Monday to get excited. Like I'm refusing to get excited about like
too late.
Even if like last year when we were like 1-6 and 1 game back from the division, like we were having fun with that, like 1 game back, baby. Like even though we didn't like really have any belief in the team, it was like having fun with it. I'm still 1 game away from having fun with it. Like if we can beat the Chiefs, you'll get us all back in, cocky talking Giants. It's like he's like, yeah, do we want our GM fired? Absolutely. Are we going to freaking act like we won the Super Bowl in the wild card? Absolutely, we're going to do that too. So, but if we could beat the Chiefs on Monday night, I'm just waiting for that to turn it into that, because then it's like you beat a really, I know they're 3-4, but like you beat a really good team.
Mm-hmm.
And like Eli Bittner said this on national television, if they could pull that win off, I mean, it's going to be, and with quarterback talk, and we could talk about Daniel Jones a little bit. What you do on national TV matters as far as like the national media, because like they only watch those games. Like, we're probably all the same way. Like we form most of our opinions on players on what they do on Thursday Night Football, Monday Night Football, and on Thanksgiving. Like my opinion on the Lions every year is what they do on Thanksgiving. Like that's my opinion of Matt Stafford for the past 10 years has been, what does he do on Thanksgiving? So like if Daniel Jones can pull off that win, even if it's not like the prettiest of like Daniel Jones games, which I'm starting to get frustrated that every Daniel Jones like good game, people are like, this is the best game of his career. It's like it was like the Washington game, best game of his career. Saints game, best. Now the Saints game you could actually argue was the best game of his career. And then this past week episode, people like best game of his career. It's like I get that guys were down and stuff, but it's like you got to complete over 120-yard pass for me to say that is the best game of your career.
He did well, I think, for what the circumstances were. The thing about Sunday's game against the Panthers was the Giants finally had a game plan that was executed. We hear every single week from Judge and whoever else is talking to the media, we're having a good practice. We got a good game plan here, and the guys never executed. This was the first time I feel like on offense, maybe not the first time, but like this was an offensive game plan with a lot of guys out that I feel like was perfectly executed. Like Jason Garrett said, okay, our offensive line is missing our best piece in Andrew Thomas. Let's get the offensive line on the move. Let's have Daniel Jones do rollouts and throw to Evan Ingram. He'll get 50-something yards receiving. It just made it easy. Not to say like Daniel Jones like had an easy game. I thought the guy played well. I think it's crazy to say it's the best game of his career. I understand the circumstances, but I've been way more impressed with Daniel Jones in other games. But what Daniel Jones did in this game was like he had to go out there, do what the game plan told him to do. He protected the ball, and the Giants defense helped. So like there was a perfect team win. Like this was the first team win we saw in a long time, I feel like, because even the Saints won. The defense was questionable at one point. They got saved on a penalty on the Adam Troutman hold on that big touchdown that was called back. So this was the first like full-on team victory for the Giants. I know it's the Panthers. They're in shambles right now. But like, as you said, Bobby, if they can somehow go into Arrowhead on Monday night, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, we're going to win the Super Bowl. But like, I would feel so much better about this team because although the Chiefs are 3-4, they've been to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. Could have been 3 if it wasn't for D Ford. This team is legit, and they've been very good for a long time, like as long as I can remember. So if they can still beat this team, I mean, I'm going to feel like we beat the Super Bowl winning type Chiefs teams. It may not be the same exact thing, but that's the way I look at it, at least.
Yeah, Mike, I feel like you, especially out of YouTubers, I feel like there's a lot of podcasters that are very diverse in their opinions and stuff like that. But especially for YouTubers, I feel like they're largely kind of homers, right? I feel more or less they're more optimistic about that side of things, which, sometimes for videos, I feel like you have to be. You can't just be all doom and gloom all the time. But I feel like you kind of ground everybody where you are very realistic about kind of where the team is. So kind of break down for me, maybe on two different areas, whichever one you want to touch on first. Where are you right now on Daniel Jones from a realistic standpoint? And then where are you right now with this Giants team? Obviously, if a win Monday, that maybe does change some things. And, nobody should be critiquing anybody. If the Giants start to win more games, then our opinions change. But where are you right now? The team, Jones, Gettleman, wherever you kind of want to touch on first.
Well, I thought Justin was going to say his talking point of it was the first time Garrett out-schemed which was a good take by Justin, which I always steal Justin's takes.
Yeah.
But that was the first time I felt like wow, he out-schemed this other team, and it was it's still a really good defense of Carolina, even though the team's bad. But where are you at with DJ?
All right, yeah. So for Daniel Jones, I think like whenever Daniel Jones has a big game, and like as we said, Sunday's game wasn't a big game. He had 200 passing yards, 1 touchdown. I know this
was a good game, not like a big
yeah,
game.
exactly. Like people are acting like he threw for 450 and 4. I think with Daniel Jones, like people sometimes like jump the gun. Like you can have your own opinion, but I think for people to be like he is 100% guaranteed the franchise quarterback, like you can have that opinion. But like we also have to realize, like, okay, a new GM's going to come in here probably next year. What if he wants somebody else? So like you can think Daniel Jones is the guy, but as Justin said, I try to be grounded and try to be realistic with my takes. And like I'm thinking like, okay, like if Daniel Jones plays this way the rest of the year, I personally believe he should be back in 2022. I've said this before. I don't want to take a quarterback in the draft in round 1 just for the hell of it. I don't want to trade for a Kirk Cousins or a Derek Carr. I feel like that's the same crap, honestly, plus giving up assets. Like what I want to see is like a real GM come in here, because as you guys know, not the biggest Gettleman guy. And if we can get a GM in here that can like find a way to get a better offensive line, you can't completely fix your offensive line in one off season, but we've seen teams do a little bit of it. Like Cleveland had a couple of guys with their offensive line that added a left tackle and a right tackle, and then boom, like they were like one of the best offensive lines in football. And like, we saw the Chargers this past offseason adding a few guys, and now their offensive line is actually very respectable. So if we get a new GM, and like, as you guys said, right when I was in the waiting room, whatever it's called, we were talking about adding a right tackle in the draft. I am definitely all for that. Like, I think if this team adds a right tackle and has a pretty good offensive line next year, I want to see what Daniel Jones is made of. Because, like, even for me, a person that doesn't believe Daniel Jones has a top 10 quarterback type ceiling, I do recognize that if you give Daniel Jones a team to win, he can win. Like, I've seen enough to believe that at least. So I do want to see this guy with like an adequate team. We just haven't seen it yet. And it's partly due to the injuries and partly due to the way this team is built. It just coincides with each other. So yeah, with Daniel Jones, I mean, look, I feel like right now, if I'm being honest, I view him as like a league average quarterback, but that's better than what I thought he was coming into this year. Like if I'm ranking quarterbacks, I'm probably putting Daniel Jones, I don't know, somewhere around like 15, 16, 17, which I think is fine. Like, and especially with the surroundings he has right now with the guys out, I just think people kind of act like, I know we're fans and we're going to act crazy and whatnot, but people kind of like just go crazy on social media. And I'm like, guys, like, come on. So, all right. So I got the DJ stuff for the team.
Well, with DJ, we'll stay on DJ for a little bit. I mean, obviously, there's going to be people who, they're the 1%. With DJ, I feel like sometimes it's like we watch Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Rodgers, and it's like, look at these. It's like, but like those guys do it consistently week in, week out, and it's like, and then Brady, obviously, but Brady doesn't get as much love because he doesn't have like the huge arm that those three guys have. And it's like, so I feel like every draft, I feel like they've kind of almost ruined draft stuff. Like Lamar Jackson. Like I haven't watched Malik Willis a ton right now, but it's like Lamar Jackson makes me want to like think I can take Malik Willis, even though I've watched him and it's like he has some serious accuracy issues and he's had a bunch of turnovers supposedly the last year. I don't get too into it this time of year. So it's like Zach Wilson is like, oh, next Patrick Mahomes. And it's like, just because a guy can like, it's part of me wants to get in on like the, just go after arm talent. But then part of me is like, no, you got to believe in a guy and what like, what happens in between those ears is more important than the arm stuff. And as long as you have like a good arm, where Daniel Jones has a good arm, not a great arm, and I felt like during the draft, people treated him like he didn't have a good arm. Like he has a good arm. He just doesn't have, that top tier, top guys. But it's like, if I see what he has done this year, I agree with everything Mike said. The only problem is we're going to see Jones as good as Garrett allows him to be, and it's like, and that's what's so frustrating. And again, Garrett's coming off of a game where we're giving him his praise, but overall, it's like, no, I want him gone, and Jason Garrett's the reason I want Joe Judge gone, because it's like, another take I've stolen from Justin is like, until you guys prove that like you guys believe in like scoring by big plays, it's like, well, I'm not believing in you guys, because like you're not going to win consistently in the NFL without doing that on offense. So it's like I believe Jones can be in that like 5 to 10 range. I don't think he'll ever be the top 3 range, but I think he can be in the 5 to 10 range. And right now he has a coordinator who I hate. Like I hate Jason Garrett, and it's like, and it's frustrating that the good game plan that we called that we're praising is because like the offensive line's bad and it was a bunch of short quick stuff. Like
and
we're praising his game plan and a game plan where they didn't complete a pass over 20 plus yards. Like that should show you kind of where the happiest we've ever been with Jason Garrett. It's like that's how low the bar is. So it's like a mix of what Pat Shurmur did, and I don't think Pat Shurmur was even some great play call. I think he was a decent one. People in Denver aren't the biggest Pat Shurmur fans. Even though I think Bridgewater fools everybody at the beginning of every season with his new team, and then he comes back down to earth. So it's like, man, that's what's so frustrating is that like if they keep Judge, they're probably going to keep Garrett, and it's like, well, Daniel Jones, unless this team becomes elite with offensive talent the way Dallas is, I don't think Daniel Jones will ever be great with Jason Garrett as play caller unless there is just flat out great players. And I think there's only a few players in the NFL who could become that to be like consistently really good. And I think it's, Patrick Mahomes, Josh, and maybe not even a Josh Allen. Like it'd be like Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady would be like the three.
Bobby, I'm gonna butt in with the question for Mike, if that's okay, so he can go off of something. Mike, so what is the thing? So I have my thing where I want to see Jones do something like Bobby said, where it's produce more explosive plays and just in general score more points. I'm not going to believe in the direction of the Giants until they do that. So maybe what's something, whether it's from Jones or whether it's from the team, what are some things that the Giants have to do in order for you to say, I believe in the direction of the franchise?
You mean like just play calling wise, or like something with the roster?
Wherever your brain kind of goes to right now. Like, hey, the Giants are doing this. I believe in it, and I'm behind it.
Well, as Bobby just touched on, I would like to move on from Jason Garrett. I don't know if that's going to happen if Daniel Jones continues the progression, because we're kind of in like this catch-22. We want Daniel Jones to progress, but we also don't want him to like be so good where we bring back Jason Garrett. It's like kind of a weird situation.
We're going to get into Tony Romo mode. That's the good thing, though. Is teams will fall back in love with Jason Garrett and hire him as a head coach. That's the point. That's the one good thing.
Hopefully the Raiders, call him up in the offseason.
But if we have good outings on these two Monday night games, Jason Garrett will get a head coaching job, and that'll be nice.
I can't even I hated the Mike McCarthy like hiring, for instance. I can't even imagine hiring Jason Garrett. That would like make me like go ballistic as a fan of that team that hired Jason Garrett. Like I think the Chargers were like interviewing him. Like imagine having him over Staley right now. It would just be terrible. Anyway, what were we talking about? So, all right, what would make me feel confident?
What would be like you're like, okay, like I believe in, like they fired Dave Gettleman, like, and 4 weeks in, I don't know. It was your questions, Justin. You asked.
So what if Giants do XYZ? Mike Too Nice says, I believe in the direction of the franchise.
All right, here we go. All right. The first thing, and it comes down to John Mayer, so it's probably not going to happen, is hire an outside voice as the next GM. I am tired of hiring guys that have always had previous ties with this team. I feel like going back to George Young, it's always been an in-house guy. It's worked out for them in the past, of course. But I'm one of those people that believes the Giant way is kind of dead. Like, I hate to say it, but like, this has been one of the worst franchises in sports of the past 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it's been. So for me to really take this team seriously and realize that John Mara is going to take winning seriously and put winning over his relationships, got to hire an outside guy. Like, I think we all can agree here. If Kevin Abrams is promoted to the GM, we're all going to be like, what the F? Like, I want to give him a chance, but like, it's the same crap we always do, and it always leads us back into that same cycle, and we're going to end up in the same spot, I feel like. So,
and look at our record, and then look at our cap situation right now as a team that may have to rebuild again, and now we can't even rebuild because we have no cap.
Exactly. And that's another thing about it. Like, with the whole Daniel Jones thing, like, you're going to have to extend him at some point. I know there's like 2 years left on his rookie contract, but at what point can we feasibly see the Giants being competitive again? And I'm not talking like competitive, like be a 7-8 win team. Like, when can the Giants be Super Bowl contenders again? Like, is it going to take 2 off seasons? Like, I don't know. Like, by the time that's going to happen, unless there's some magical turnaround here, Daniel Jones might be like off his rookie contract. So we're going to have to make that big decision. Yeah. And I talked about that before, actually. Like, I said this on Twitter. For me to say I think someone is the guy, I need to be like committed to the point where I'm going to give him like a big ass contract extension. So like,
if the number that you used was 130 million, right?
130 million, 5-year contract, somewhere along those lines. If I can't sit here and say I am positive I want to give my young quarterback that contract, that means I'm still unsure. It doesn't mean I think Daniel Jones is the worst or he's a bust. I just want to see more. I think that's a very fair opinion to have, and people like hate when you say that for some reason. It makes you a hater. And as Bobby said, like I'm a victim of this as well. I watch Red Zone every week as well. I watch Josh Allen and Justin Herbert make these stupid throws of like rolling to the right and throwing these 40-yard lasers. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like fantastic. But like at the same time, having a good structure is also very important as well. Like if we can just put Daniel Jones in a Dak Prescott / Baker Mayfield situation, I'll sign up for that as well. Like I'm definitely fine with that. Like great quarterbacks don't grow on trees. And you talked about Zach Wilson. You can have all the attributes in the world. We saw Wilson have a few insane plays against the Titans, and whenever the Jets beat the Titans, he had a few insane plays there. But Zach Wilson overall has not been good, mostly because he's a rookie and the surroundings, and probably because of his own doing. So I think having a good structure will lead me in the right direction and have me start believing this team. But honestly, Justin, to answer your question here, just to sum it all up, it's going to be hire an outside GM, which we'll see if that happens, and B, start winning next year. Like, actually, let's start off 2-1 next year. Let's start off 3-2 next year.
Yeah.
I'm not asking for the world. I am tired of these 1-5, 1-7, 2-6 starts every goddamn year. Like, I'm tired of sitting in the middle of October and being like, well, this season's over on the fantasy football. Like, it's just the worst. Like, I'd want to actually be excited for a team in the middle of October, and we're gonna kind of get bought back in if they beat the Chiefs here on Monday. But still, you don't want to be 3-5.
You're still 3-5, and that sucks.
It sucks.
Yeah, and you mentioned Dak. I think that is like best case scenario for Daniel Jones. He's Peyton Manning, which is like, okay, that's dreaming, But like optimistic, but also realistic goal for Daniel Jones, I think, is Dak Prescott, Ben Roethlisberger. Like that's where I see him, and me and Danny King's like pro comp for Daniel Jones in the draft was Ben Roethlisberger. Now,
really,
but anytime you do a pro comp, people will look for the things that aren't exactly the same. So people will say, well, this is where Ben's different. But it's like that was always my aggressive, willing to stand the pocket downfield. And I'll tell you what, the one thing that's been really encouraging about Daniel Jones, as someone who's always liked him, the one thing I worried, I was like, I don't know if this is going to get better, and this could be the demise of him, is how he manipulates the pocket. Yes. I love how his willingness to stand in the pocket and take a hit. Someone actually had a reply to me, and it was like, part of his issues his rookie year is he just has no fear. And you see it in the way his reaction to catching that pass one-handed, getting hit, and just doesn't do anything. Like, he has no fear, and that was an issue for him. Like, they kind of had to teach some fear and coach some fear into him. It's like, dude, you can't be this reckless. Whether it's standing in the pocket for too long, not moving in the pocket, or, some of the bad interceptions he had.
Mike, and I feel like you talk about it all the time with like really good quarterbacks, right? Where, we do want to compare the quarterback position that we have to the best in the league, where even if Jones isn't going to be great extending plays to his right, to his left, like a Josh Allen, Mahomes, Rodgers does, but if he can manipulate the pocket and extend plays within the pocket, then that's a place that we can be happy with Daniel. That's like happy medium, right?
And let me say, like, he's actually been getting better at it. Like, I tweeted when
it's his biggest improvement.
It is, I think, in my opinion, at least, and I'm sure many other people agree. But like in that game where I think Jones had the bad game against the Rams, like he still was so good in like maneuvering the pocket. Like it was something I've never seen before. So although we kind of left that game discouraged, like you threw the 2 worst interceptions we've seen from him in a while, it's like, if you just look at like the positives from that game, like the guy is maneuvering the pocket better than he ever has before. And that is one of my biggest issues with Daniel Jones coming into this year, is how can he maneuver the pocket? Because he always was so oblivious. He would have guys coming from his strong side, Marcus Golden and Jamal Adams, those plays coming from his strong side and just ripping the ball from him. And you're like, bro, how do you not see that? Like it's coming from your strong side. I get the no fear part, and you want your quarterback to be looking downfield and not be intimidated by the rush. Because some guys like don't want to take hits. We know who they are. But Daniel Jones is not that way, and I definitely praise him for that. But don't let it get to the point where you're so oblivious that it's going to create you to fumble the ball too much. So,
he was oblivious his rookie year, like oblivious.
Definitely, yeah, it was bad. So,
and it would lead to some really awesome plays, but it's like, dude, you just get hit at, and he had Nate Solder's left, and I was like, you are getting lit up right now, and it looks like it just doesn't phase you. Like, and I loved it, but it's like you gotta manipulate the pocket a little bit. But like the Rams game was a bad game, But what I'll say is like encouraging is one, that he didn't stack on it. He didn't stack another bad game on top of it, which he did. Especially the beginning of his second year. The first half of last year was bad. It was his like that. After that Bucs game, I was like, man, they might need to move. Like it was the first time where it's like this. It might be time to move on. And then he obviously he improved a lot as the season went along. But it was like those interceptions were bad interceptions, but it was like, okay, this is where you got baited. You got baited into these two. Obviously, the Shep stumbled, but it's like you got baited into these ones where there's been the interceptions before that. Obviously, he didn't really throw any real ones, but like that Bucs game, it's like, this is just stupid. Like this is a stupid. There's no thought process behind these interceptions that I can get behind. Where it's like, okay, that safety just baited you. He gave you one step, and then you locked on, and he's gotten better at going through progression. Like they're bad, obviously, and interceptions are bad, but it's like I see where you got baited into this. Just don't let that happen again, type thing. Where there was some plays, beginning of half of last year and his rookie season, where it's like this is just this is just stupid, and there's no need for this.
The worst part about the Bucks game was that, like, we knew Tampa at that time. I think they were 7-4 at that time. Like, we knew they were a pretty good team and they were going to be a playoff team. But, like, we knew they were a good team. And, like, it basically was the rest of the Giants played well in that game. And the one thing holding them back was Daniel Jones, which is the opposite of this year. I feel like everyone else is not playing up to their standard. I know your guys' boy Leonard Williams has been showing out recently. We'll probably get to him later. But, like, most guys on this team weren't really playing up to their standard, except for Daniel Jones and a few others. So, like, the reason that Tampa game was so discouraging was because, we had the two terrible interceptions. He was missing guys downfield, left and right. Sterling Shepard had that sluggo route where he missed them on the left side of the field. And you saw those things and you're like, man, like, is this guy really a franchise quarterback? Like, I questioned it myself. I think I went to Twitter that night and said he's not a franchise quarterback, which, I'll probably have to apologize for at one point if he does end up being the guy here. But, like, I was so just pissed off after that night.
You need to stop, Mike, by the way.
Go ahead.
You need to stop apologizing for things.
No, you gotta be accountable.
Just you're a good man. You're an honorable man. But I say you all the time, apologizing for this. If there are things that I'm wrong with, I'm not going to delete a tweet. If you want to be a psychopath and go find it, you can go find it, and then I'll fight you after that.
I'm that type of guy.
Mike needs to just stop arguing with people who are trying to okay, here's my critique of Mike.
You're too good.
By Twitter all day.
You're too nice.
My critique of Mike is someone tweets out Eli made Odell. It's that's obviously not true. But it's Mike was I'll spend my day trying to disprove that. And it's but someone who tweets that can't be disproven because they're never going to agree.
Yeah.
And I learned that with Twitter too. It's you know what? Stop arguing with people. It's if, you can argue, but it's I see that and I'm all right, Mike, I guarantee Mike's going to have a tweet talking about how Odell really helped Eli, Yeah.
I mean,
and I'm an Odell hater. I love hating Odell. I don't like Odell, but it's obviously I know that's not true,
Yeah. No, I'm on such the opposite end of that spectrum. I personally believe Eli Manning was declining from 2016 on, and I think Odell really did a great job of helping this man because the guy was catching slants and adding on to his numbers. And all I did today was retweet Eli's numbers with Odell and without Odell, and you see the noticeable difference. So the part that annoys me is someone tweets out something that's just factually incorrect. And then I'm no, we're not doing this. But yeah, I mean, the way I handle my Twitter,
you won't turn down any argument in that.
No, I need a counselor for Twitter. It's bad. I get in the arguments with the worst people sometimes, and I get it. Sometimes I could be kind of a dick on there, and I kind of provoke things, and I get it. But I just hate people that do the name calling and the personal attacks. I'm dude, we don't have to bring it there. I understand I'm a loser. I'm in my parents' house. I don't care. I'm just trying to talk about football here. I think people take it to a level. People know where I work now somehow. It's the weirdest thing. So Twitter just getting to a different level with me. But yeah, I got to cool it, I think, at some point once I mature more, which probably won't ever happen.
I love it. How about this? How about this, Bobby?
Yeah, if you don't mature, you end up, being Copizzle at 36 years old doing videos like that.
You were going to say that. I didn't think you were going to go
there. We've been not picking on him much, but I had you on, so we had to pick on Copizzle a little bit.
No comment.
How about this, Bobby Skinner? And before you go on another,
Justin hates when I mess with Copizzle
because it's just not worth it. It gives him more attention.
I know, but it's he's the one person I'll give a little attention to every once in a while.
Bunch of booger eaters.
Yeah. So you mentioned my friend Leonard Williams before. But before I make you eat crow, you mentioned our boy Leonard Williams. Let's move to the defense side of the ball before we kind of wrap up here. Maybe just again another broad question. What do you feel this year has kind of been going wrong on the defensive side of the ball?
Let me change
my question, please, without going on a 5-minute rant about your opinion.
Because the defense has been bad, but Patrick Graham is somebody that me and you both like what he did last year. Probably. Where are you at with Patrick Graham? Because there's things I disagree with Pat Graham, but it's I still like Pat Graham. I think he's a really smart guy, and there's some things he did, there's things I did, but I think Patrick Graham's a smart, I think he's going to be a good defensive coach for a long time in the NFL, even though there's things I disagree with.
Actually, I don't want to give up on Patrick Graham. I would be annoyed if he left after this year. If he gets a head coaching job, I don't blame him. But still, I'd be annoyed if the Giants fired him, which I don't think will happen. But as you pointed out, Bobby, in one of your videos, the Giants kind of changed the way they schematically were playing the run this week. How they were kind of moving the linebacker over and playing a certain gap. I mean, it's all football talk. You're better at that stuff than me. But you could tell something was different when it came to stopping the run. I think Patrick Graham can make the adjustments. The thing with Patrick Graham that was annoying me at some points was why are you playing 10 yards off when it's 3rd and 2? It gave me like James Betcher flashbacks in a way. And they were allowing too many big, like, I think one of the problems with the Giants defense was in the beginning of the year, they were bad against the run. I think teams were averaging, what was it, like 4.7, 4.8 yards per carry? Like,
it was like top 5 in the league.
The Dallas game, they tore us up in that one. Like, our run defense was awful. It's getting better now. I mean, Dexter Lawrence has played well too. Ever since I called him out, I'll take the credit for that one. No, I'm kidding. I'm sure a lot of people did as well. But even the cornerbacks letting up big plays. I think Adoree Jackson, his tackling has been pretty bad this year, I will say. But in coverage, Adoree Jackson hasn't been that bad. But James Bradbury is a guy that's had a lot of problems with wide receiver ones this year. Like, I'm thinking back to the Terry McLaurin game. I'm thinking back to the CeeDee Lamb game. I'm thinking back to Jerry Jeudy in week 1. Like, we've been torched by teams' number 1 wide receivers. Even DJ Moore, I think, had a decent game for the Panthers, despite Sam Darnold not being able to hit anything in sight. But yeah, I mean, we just have a lot of problems with some of the high-end receivers in this league, which is frustrating because you look at our secondary, and yes, we're minus Peppers now, which sucks, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. It's like we have all the personnel in the world. We have a smart defensive coordinator, in my opinion. Why are we allowing so many big defensive plays? But I guess the one good thing about the Giants defense, and Justin, I see your tweets about this sometimes, is that they've been much better in the red zone. Now, they had a few games where they got really bad in the red zone, that Rams game and Cowboys game to be specific. But they, for the most part, as you said, Justin, were allowing a lot of yards on defense, but we're kind of clamping down in the red zone and holding teams to 3 points or finding a way to get out of that and force them in a turnover. So, I think the defense should get better. I think as the year goes on, things will get better here. I know that some guys are dropping like flies, and we're down 2 defensive captains here with Jabril and Blake Martinez, but we do have some guys to hopefully fill in. Like, I know Blake Martinez's production can't be matched, but that means more reps for a young guy like Tay Crowder. And now Benardrick McKinney comes in here out of nowhere. He was playing on Sunday. There's some guys in the secondary. I guess Julian Love could play some safety. I'm not the biggest fan of that, but now we can see like McKinney play full time. What do you guys think about Logan Ryan, by the way? Logan Ryan's a guy I love, and I love everything he says to the media, and he's a team leader. But do you guys think he's living up to the $10 million per year? Because I'm not seeing it so far. Honestly.
It's tough with safeties because part of being a safety, especially a free safety, is stopping plays. It's like your presence stops the quarterback from going where you are. So part of like that's frustrating. And he's done his job of that. But I think like they've brought him under more. Like McKinney will play high, Logan will play down low. And I just feel like that's kind of backwards in a way. Where it's like I don't know. I'm not a big fan of McKinney, by the way, right now. Not to say that he won't be good. But Logan Ryan, I go back and forth with that because he does play a position where it's like if you're not being thrown at or where the play is being made, you're kind of doing your job, but the QB is able to go and attack other spots of the field. Mm-hmm. Especially when you're in man coverage, it's easy to avoid.
Right. Yeah.
So it's hard. It's I don't have like a super strong opinion on Logan Ryan, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Yeah. Justin, you got anything about Logan?
Yeah, out of all the guys that I critique in the secondary of having interceptions in their hands, between Jackson, Bradbury, McKinney's had interceptions in his hands that have just dropped. Logan Ryan had 2 in his hands against Atlanta that were somewhat hard catches, but still, I mean, those are, interceptions and plays that are in front of you that I feel like you're expected to make now that everybody in the secondary is making a lot of money and there's a lot of investment in whether it's draft capital or whether it is money. So that's the thing where Logan Ryan, you're not just a one-year wonder. Oh, we signed him in August, like a week before the season, and he's playing well, and it's a new position. Like, no, this is the second year in your position. You guys, the secondary had a lot of hype heading into the season. They talked about that hype, to some extent, and Logan Ryan being one of those guys, and it just wasn't like we thought. So definitely more happy with Logan Ryan than I am with Xavier McKinney, and I do agree with Bobby where I almost want McKinney going forward instead of backwards because that was his strengths at Alabama, moving forward, covering tight ends, moving side to side, moving forward, coming up in the running game. However, he's just not as physical as he was at Alabama. And Logan Ryan has that, kind of slot corner experience where he was moving backwards for an entire career. That's what he spent his career doing. So, they're not that bad with actually. I think the Carolina game kind of skews the numbers a little bit. They're 15th in the National Football League right now in explosive pass play rate. So it's actually like exactly average where it was a problem. I feel like it wasn't a problem in the beginning of the year. Then it became a problem. And now the problem is kind of dwelling off, and that's what you get with the short sample sizes of week to week, with it still being somewhat early on the season. So, yeah, man, this defense is like, it's almost tough to dissect, especially when you have a very, very weak edge room, which that's exactly what Block Roach was asking about.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest issue. When you look at the Giants defense, is they have no edge, and we'll talk about. I want to ask you about Azeez, because Azeez hype is that high right now, and I'm just, I hate it because it is built in what I thought of him in the draft, but I'm just not like totally. I'm not in on like the Azeez is better than Chase Young hype.
And this goes to the whole thing that, Mike, I know you agree with this, about like Giants fans over evaluate their players. You know, we overhype our players, and we like to say some crazy things like, oh, because Azeez Ojulari is having more sacks than Chase Young this year, Azeez is greater than signed Chase Young. Right. So all that kind of stuff, and that's what it goes to the whole point. So, Bobby,
Bielema, they must do miss though, because Bielema's like a good coach, and like, so he's used to coaching 90 people, recruiting, and then it's like, all right, you have 4 outside linebackers, coach them. It's like, man, these guys are getting the experience of a lifetime. So, but I want to turn Glock Roach's question into a question like, where are you at with Azeez right now?
I actually like Azeez a lot. Like, I was a big fan of his, and I didn't think he'd hit the ground running like this, but it's almost like he had to because of how bad the guys in front of him were. Like, I don't think the Giants came into the season with the thoughts that Azeez Ojulari was going to be their best pass rusher, except for Leonard Williams, like their best outside linebacker edge rusher, less than halfway through the year. Like, I don't think the Giants had that plan. Maybe they did, but it's just not the way it's seen, especially with like having Lorenzo Carter now in year 4 and having Zimenez in year 3. I think they were relying more on those guys, and it's like, I mean, nothing happened with them. So at that point, you're kind of forced to put in Azeez Ojulari. But yeah, I mean, I was kind of concerned how he would play against the run this year, but I haven't been disappointed. I think there were some moments early on in the year where he was not doing well against the run, but it's getting better. And I think the pressures are more consistent. I think at some point he was working against like a backup left tackle, and tells the guy's name, Brady Christensen or something. So like, it wasn't the strongest opponent, of course, but at the same time, like, I'm very encouraged to see what he's going to do the rest of the year, because I liked him a lot. I thought, he was my, I think, second favorite edge prospect somewhere. Like, he was top 3 for me for sure. So the fact that we got him in number 50 or whatever, I was like, holy crap, awesome pick. So, he's kind of living up to the expectation. I just didn't think we'd get it this soon. So I'm actually very excited from going forward. And if we can pair him with another guy, probably not a free agency with our cap situation, but pair him with another really good outside linebacker.
That's what excites me.
We're going to be in good shape.
If
Bobby,
like,
don't take my point.
Go ahead.
Don't take my point, because I had a really good point that goes off this. I think Azeez. Now, I don't think this is a reach, and you let me know if it's a reach, because you do like to look at the NFL, and your main YouTube channel is about it's kind of like an all sports but NFL channel too. So I think Azeez's ceiling, and this is ceiling, like this is where he can get to, the Hassan Reddick to the Brian Burns, or the Hassan Reddick to the Chandler Jones across from him. So, it's still, we're waiting for that variable of the Azeez Ojulari to whatever number 1 edge rusher hopefully the Giants can maybe get this year. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know who that guy's going to be. I don't research the draft, obviously. And, I try to stay out of draft stuff until like December at the earliest. So I don't know who's going to be there. I know like Thibodeau is an amazing player. Apparently, I don't know if I'll have a shot at him.
He would be the second best Thibodeau in New York, according to the Knicks fans.
Oh my God, the Knicks are back.
Dude, I'm so tired of their fans. By the way, Mike, I can't deal with them.
Listen, I can't either. But like,
I ignore it. My brand is Giants. I know my role. I don't tweet a ton about the Nets. I watch everyone else in playoffs. You're getting full Nets, Bobby. But it's like, I know that during the regular season, like, keep my Nets tweets to a minimum, because it's just I don't want to deal with the annoying replies. But I used to not root against the Knicks. Now I flat out hate the Knicks, and I'm leaning into it. I hate the New York Knicks.
I try not to care about them, honestly, because like, I feel like the Nets are probably going to go further this year. We would hope, but
I try to stay out of that. But and we have this Kyrie situation where it's like, I don't even feel like talking about it. It's like, if I was like, just get back here, here eventually. I don't know when. It's an 82 game season, so I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna make a huge deal over it right now. But it's like, if you're not here by the playoffs, like, I'm gonna hate. I was gonna buy Kyrie's jersey, and you see the new retro jerseys. I love them.
I did. Yeah, they're kind of like.
I'm gonna buy. I haven't bought a basketball jersey since Jason Kidd's retro jersey, and like when I was like in 5th grade, And I was gonna buy a Kyrie one, but now I think I'm just gonna get the Durant one.
Yeah, you're probably better off. Yeah,
I was thinking about getting a role player jersey, but it's like, you know what? Screw that. I'm not buying like. I was like, they might trade Bruce Brown, so it's like I'm not getting a Bruce Brown jersey.
I feel like Patty Mills is a good 2-year investment for a jersey, but
but I like Mills, but it's like it's either like young guy or star. So
he's Australian.
I just like the number 11. Like I think the 11 looks cool on a jersey.
I actually always wore 11 when I used to play sports at a very low level. I always played 11. I don't know, or wore 11. I don't know why. I think they just gave it to me one time. And I was like, I like how this looks. And my
last name starts with
double one looks cool. So, but I'm gonna get a KD retro jersey.
There you go.
Mike, can we meet up and can I sauce you? In basketball? Now you're very good.
Are you good, Justin? Or
no, I'm not good. But I'll show you. I'll give you the best.
Mike's good at basketball. I mean, I remember like the video you made, like imitating shots. It's like, okay, you gotta have at least some basketball skill to do that.
Mike's very good.
I think like overall basketball, like I'm decent. I think for a 5'8" white kid or 5'9" white kid, like I'm very good. I just think if you put me against other people, it's like, okay, I'm kind of average. But like for what God gave me, I feel like I do a good job. But I don't play as much anymore, so I'm probably not as good.
Yeah, but the way I lose my audience will be a Nets championship. I just know it. People are going to hate. I mean, my followers are dropped by like the 50s.
It's going to be toxic out here
during every Nets playoff game.
But like in fairness, Bobby, we ate a lot of crap after the Bucks series, which wasn't fair because of the injuries. But like so many.
It was so frustrating because it's like, is the expectation a championship? It's like we're hurt. Like it's frustrating, and everyone's signing extensions. Harden's going to sign one. I don't know what's going to happen with Kyrie, but Kevin Gate. So it's like we have a lot. We're going to win a championship, and if you give me one championship, I will go crazy. So, let's get off basketball talk and let's stop making, the 290 of the 310 people in here hate us.
The Knicks are back.
The Knicks are back.
They're back. Let's see. All right, so we'll go for another 5 minutes or so. We try not to keep these that long.
Can you eat crow on Leonard Williams right now? No.
Right now?
I don't think. Were you a Leonard? Actually, yeah, go for it. Eat crow.
I mean, yeah, when the Giants traded for him, I didn't like. My video's still out there. I was actually kind of for the trade because I was under the assumption like, okay, we traded for a 25-year-old really good football player and we need some defense. Well, we didn't need defensive line help, but he was going to be our best defensive lineman at the time. So I'm like, okay, like I can see where Gettleman's going with this trade. But when they didn't extend him that first offseason, that's when I got mad because he didn't produce, like he was getting pressures and quarterback hits and all that, but he wasn't like producing and being a game changer in
it was his worst statistical season, and they gave him a franchise tag.
Yeah, and like I guess he was a good fit for Patrick Graham's defense and whatnot, and it just all came to fruition. Part of it as well is just the way Gettleman handled that whole situation. When the beat writers, and rightfully so, asked him like, "Why did you trade for an impending free agent?" When your team was like 2-6, and then Gettleman's like, "Well, I wanted to see how he looked in our defense," but then you go and fire the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, what a dumb.
It makes no sense. And
his answers for that were so dumb. I still don't get it, honestly. It's like I don't get it.
If he gave us like a reasonable answer, Dave Gettleman, and was like, I just want to have him under team control. I think he's a good player and a building block, and said something along those lines, I would have been like, okay, I see your vision. But when you go out and say, I wanted to see how he looks in his defense, I wanted to see him up close. A, he plays in the same freaking stadium, and B, like every GM in front.
That's stupid.
It's just I don't know. He's not the best with the media, obviously. He does say some funny stuff, but yeah, I mean, for Leonard Williams, I mean, I think if he does this, I don't know, like. I don't want to say I'll eat crow yet because the contract.
And I was being a jackass. I was.
No, it's fine. I get it. I've always thought he's a really good football player. I think so. Like when I see, like we talked about the Odell and the Eli thing. When I see Leonard Williams next to Aaron Donald, that stuff kind of triggers me. I'm not going to lie and
I knew it was going to trigger people, but I had no problem doing it because I got so triggered when people were like, "Well, like he had like 1.5 sacks through like 4 or 5 games," but it's like it's how come every person who's like supposed to be forward thinking talks about how like sacks aren't as predictive and you got to look at it deeper when it comes to that. But when it comes to Leonard Williams, all of a sudden now only thing that matters is sacks. And again, earlier in the season, we're not even looking at a full and it's like the sacks are going to come eventually, and they have.
Yeah. And that was my main thing in 2020.
And that's why I put out the Aaron Donald tweet. It was like a big fuck you to everyone who was like, "Where's the stats? Where's the stats?" Like, here's the stats. Now let's talk about having nuance. That's what got me so fired. That's why I did it, because I comparing to Aaron Donald. Like, obviously they're not the same player, but it was like, well, look what the production's happening right now.
I'll tell you what, Justin. Though I'm already eating my crow on Kadarius Toney. I did not have the best draft reaction to him. I wasn't really like into him because of the injuries and whatnot. And like that still can come to fruition. Like he has not been that healthy so far. And I hope but when he plays, he's phenomenal. Kadarius Toney could easily be a top 20, top 15, maybe top 10 wide receiver in football if he's healthy. Like I
don't think anyone expected this early.
No, I don't think so either.
Because he has a playing style where it's like, will he be able to do that stuff in the NFL?
Especially with Jason Garrett,
which is why like I had Kadarius ranked as like my 6th wide receiver. And with the reason that we got excited about Toney, even though he wasn't our guy at 20, is like this signals change because you can't just line him up and run him in curls. It's like, but now they have, and he's still. But it's like I don't think anyone expected this out of Kadarius this early.
No.
Even the Giants, I don't think the Giants expected this out of Kadarius this early. So it's
looking good. It's looking good. Just gotta stay healthy. Him and Galladay, all these guys gotta stay healthy. And Barkley, I mean, it sucks because I think we actually could have had a pretty decent offense this year, but like I think they'll come back at some point, but it just sucks that we're sitting here and we're still wondering oh, what's the offense going to look like? And we're 40% of the way through the season. So I just wish we were able to see it.
What's going on, Kid Blue? Yeah. Take my money. Stop giving us freaking money. Yeah. I just got so tired. I was just over it, and it was like, even if I don't go outside or sweat or nothing, by the end of the day, it would suck, And
Mike,
it's like,
you have great hair. Why are you not showing it off tonight?
This is why, because
my hats fit me again.
Just showered, and this is what my hair looks like.
Oh, come on! It still looks great.
It's no, look, it's terrible.
Still looks great. Stop.
I'm gonna have no hair in 5 years.
You have some of the best teeth and hair No, you do have the best teeth and hair combo in the business.
I make up for it though. I got the crooked eyebrow and the pointy ear. So
who
I actually got this. I butted heads with a friend once playing football. I got 26 stitches right here. That's why I was crooked. I was like,
great.
It's a cool story, but it's like, damn, I wish it didn't happen. So
I got sometimes it shows up. I got a scar right here in my eyebrow.
Yeah, it happens,
It's character.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, a lot of character that night. We'll finish it off with this. I thought this was a fun segment we did on today's podcast. 7 injured players for the Giants.
Ooh.
On the O-line, you got Andrew Thomas, Nick Gates, Shane Lemieux. On the skills, you got Saquon, Kenny Galladay, Kadarius Toney, and Sterling Shepard. That's 7 players.
Yep.
Not bringing them back in group, but it's like, all right, this one player is back for this game. Rank them where you would want them to come back.
I was actually just asked this on Twitter by somebody. So, wait, did you say want them to come back or who I think's going to come back?
Want them, like who you think would all right, like for this game, like we need this guy would help.
Gotcha. I think, man, as much as I like Galladay and how much we pay him, I got to say Toney. I think Toney's the guy I want back the most right now. I think what he could do after the catch is going to help Daniel Jones in the offense so much, and he can be a running back sometimes if you want him to be and do these end arounds and crazy stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I think him. Do I want to put Galladay third? Well, yeah, let's say Shepard two, which might sound crazy, but he's been the security blanket, off to a great start.
Where's Andrew Thomas, man?
Oh, he's in here too? Oh, man.
Yeah, Andrew Thomas, all the injured players.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm not doing realistic like Andrew Thomas and IR, like Nick Gates is out for but it's like they come back tomorrow fully healthy. So
in a perfect world, like who would you
it's
want?
Not
back
a real.
individually?
It's a hypothetical.
Okay. Yeah, Andrew Thomas is number 1. With that being said,
okay. I was like, come on, man. I feel like we're on the same page with Thomas at 1.
Then we're going. Well, can I include Blake Martinez and all those guys, or they're
just offense?
Okay, just offense. All right.
So like Nick Gage, Shane Lemieux,
Tony
two. Shepard 3.
Our friend Saquon Barkley is also included in this.
No, I know. I'm actually thinking about him next. No, him 3, Shepard 3, Galladay 4. Saquon 5, Gates 6, and who's my 7th guy?
Shane Lemieux.
Yeah, and whatever.
Okay. All right.
I had Saquon 6. I actually had Gates ahead of Shepard, by the way, too.
Really?
The drop off to Billy Price has been big.
True.
I also had Saquon at 6.
Center affects the guards as well, too. And then I had Shep at 5. Justin, you had Shep at 4, right? And then Gates
Shep
at 5.
4 and Gates at 5. Barkley at 6, Lemieux at 7.
Why Shep over Galladay?
I just feel like he's had the chemistry with Jones so far. I know Galladay's had his games. The Saints game, he was really good, and I think there was another one Galladay played well. But like, I think Washington he played well. But I just feel like Shepard's been that dude for him. Like he gets 10 plus targets when he's in there. He's he's not going to like have the big plays like Galladay has, but and when we're playing the Chiefs, I'm worried about. I don't know. Wait. Once again, is this a question about playing the Chiefs or the rest of the season? That's
just like one random game,
One random game. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, like keeping the ball and having time of possession and moving the sticks is more important to me. I know having Galladay and attracting that cornerback one's also very important, but you'd have to think that a cornerback one's probably going to be on Shepard as well, and then Tony will be in the slot most of the time. So I don't know. I just feel like Shepard's been more of that sturdy guy this year. I think Galladay's had his games where he's kind of not been too involved in a way, and part of that is because they're not targeting him enough. It's not Galladay's fault, but like I just feel like Sterling Shepard's a better fit for the playing style of Daniel Jones. And that was one of my concerns, actually. Like, I love the Galladay signing, but, like, the thing was Matthew Stafford was such a perfect quarterback for Kenny Galladay. That was one of my concerns. And, like, I think so far, like, we'll make it work when Galladay's healthy. But, like, just one of my concerns was, like, the fact that Matthew Stafford can just rifle it in there and just, throw these YOLO balls. He doesn't care. Like, he's going to throw it up. Daniel Jones, for the most part, and we've seen it with the lack of interceptions, has been more conservative. Like, we're going to take deep shots once in a while, but I feel like Daniel Jones wants to go shorter, whether it's a product of the offense or just him wanting to protect the ball. I'm sure it's coached into him, too, at this point, so I got to say that. But I just feel like he's a better fit.
That's where I'm scared if we move on from Garrett and we bring in like a Brian Dable type, not Brian Dable, but like a type like that. Mm-hmm. It's like, all right, have they gotten him too conservative now? Yeah. Where it's like there's times where it's like he wants guys to be open now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think
at the same time, a lot of his deep concepts aren't guys are blanketed, and he throws that. And that was we haven't talked about it because Galladay's been gone, but that has been another critique of DJ. Now that you have Galladay, stop trying to make every pass perfect. Give him a shot. Put that ball a little behind and outside on him. You don't have to do a perfect. You're not throwing to CJ Board and Darius Slayton. Like, you don't got to put the perfect ball on him. Like those 2 touchdowns versus the Lions to Slayton. Mm-hmm. Throw those balls to Kenny Galladay because like that's how he makes his money, because there was a couple throws to Galladay, like the one where Galladay the guy was tugging on his arm versus Washington and it didn't get called DPI. Beautiful throw by DJ, but it was like if you put that ball just a little like it was like a perfect pass, and Galladay wasn't able to come up with it. But it's like if you just put that ball a little behind him, one, he's able to adjust and do what he does, which is make contested catches. Or that pass interference looks a lot more blatant.
I'm all for that. Like I love giving your number one receiver deep shots because of all the flags we see these days. Like I see Aaron Rodgers sometimes just literally just throw the ball up and be like, "Yep, we're probably gonna get a pass interference out of it." So I'm all for that.
That's an explosive play. That's an explosive play.
And if Daniel Jones like happens to throw an interception on a deep ball, like it's not a killer. It's almost like an arm punt in a way. Like you're gonna throw a pass 40 yards downfield anyway.
Yep.
Like you have a higher probability of getting a big play out of it. Like what's the worst that can happen? Most times. I feel like more times than not, you're going to get a completion or a flag. Sometimes it'll be incomplete, and then in the rare times it'll get intercepted. So, like, that's why, like, just playing the probability of all of it and wanting explosive plays, I wish we did take more deep shots. It's one of my problems with this offense, and everyone knows that, of course. Like, I want more deep chances, and I've dove into the average depth of target thanks to Justin showing me for how to look at that stuff. But, yeah, I mean, it's just – I don't know. It kind of frustrates me. It's not even Daniel Jones' fault. I feel like it's just the way this offense is orchestrated, and I feel like we're kind of limiting him in a way. As I said, Daniel Jones has shown strides this year where he looks better in the pocket. He even made some throws on the run last week. He had one throw rolling to his right, threw like 20, 25 yards on the right sideline to, I think it was Slayton. So like he's showing growth in that regard, but I feel like the Giants' offense is holding him back. I just want to see this guy unleashed. That's what I want to see. And if he does great, awesome. If he doesn't do great, then I think that'll tell us a lot about him, honestly. Like, I feel like we're not seeing the full Daniel Jones, and it's annoying at this point. I just want to see what he's made of, and, let's see it. Like, what are we doing at this point? We're 2-5, so.
I want to see Dallas. He's 0 for 6 to start the game. You saw old Daniel Jones come back on the 3rd and 10. He's getting lit up off his back foot. And he throws the ball like 45 yards down the Kadarius Toney on the right side, like from the middle of the pocket to the right sideline.
Yeah.
Where it's like you saw that. That's like that's what gives me hope. It's like with the new coach, it's like DJ still got that in him. That like a little bit of that fuck it in him.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I just want more fuck it. Sure, that's exactly what I want from a quarterback.
You don't want like it full on, but it's like you
Yeah,
want a
not
little bit
Jameis
of
on the Bucks level.
Yeah,
but,
and that's where you're maybe we'll wrap up on this, but we had a little bit of a back and forth when you shared that Ben Baldwin graph that is my least favorite of his every single week,
I
simply
hate
because
Ben Baldwin, by the way.
well, no, you hate Ben Baldwin because you're not open, but I love Ben Baldwin, but I hate that graph. That's my least favorite thing that he puts out every single week, simply because people aren't smart enough to dissect what those keywords mean. Because Bobby will say boring. Justin Herbert's boring. You're gonna call him a boring? Like, no, that's
So
Ben
this
Baldwin
is
is
not
not.
analytics people. They use words and they're like, well, this like
because you
this
expect
is what this
analytics.
word
No,
means.
you better be quiet. You expect analytics to tell you an answer about the game of football when no, the game of football is nuanced, and so is analytics about the game of football as well, where it's nuanced. It is going to tell you one facet about a way a quarterback plays. It's not calling Justin Herbert a boring quarterback. So that graph that you shared, you be quiet. I didn't hear what you just said. So that graph that you shared, it's showing that Daniel Jones this year has been doing a much better job of not putting the ball in harm's way with the turnover-worthy plays and then the big-time throws, but he's also been what was my second point of this? Oh, my God, Mike. I just had it.
Just think about the chart. Come on.
No, I got it. Yes, conservative. So he's been relatively conservative, but he has not been putting the ball in harm's way as much. So the turnover-worthy plays are low, and the big-time plays are also relatively low as well. So we just want more of a balance where Daniel Jones, yes, you're keeping those turnover-worthy plays down that I put in quotes, but you also want to be, pushing the button a little bit by letting guys like Kenny Golladay, even if it's a contested catch and even if there's not a lot of separation, going up and letting him make the play. So
I kind of hate the big time throw stat from PFF though, because it's like if a QB moves a safety with his eyes and gets someone open instead of just being like staring him down and putting in a nice tight throw in, it's like that one staring him down's better. That's why I kind of hate the big time throw stat from PFF. I like their grades that aren't like I like anything from PFF that's not a judgment call, and not
which is a lot of it, but
not paying interns $8 an hour to slave through stuff at midnight on Sunday night to put out some grades for Monday morning. Who really are saying they are learning how to watch football on the job. So we hate PFF, but we love Mike. Subscribe to Mike's channel. Thanks again for coming on as always. We'll do it again. These Wednesday streams are a good way for us to talk with our friends in the season where we kind of get lost in our own little worlds.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mike. Thank you to all the people who are commenting. Where's my hair gone? It has been. I think the lady saved it, by the way, and she said I'm going to see if it's long enough to donate.
Can you sell it? Oh, I was going to say sell it.
Sell it. Oh, I could have sold it to one of. I wanted to do because I was going to cut it anyways, and being like, if we can get to so many Patreons or something like that, I'm like, I'll cut it because I knew I was going to cut it anyways and try and make some money off of it. But I was like, you know what? Let me just cut it. So since I didn't do that, and was such a good, honorable guy, guys, join our Patreon, $2 a month, patreon.com/talking. All right. Thank you, Mike.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, listeners. We hate PFF. And Antonio Garcia, call me corporate Bobby one more time, and I will end your YouTube. All right, see you guys.